Oh, for boyhood's painless play, sleep that wakes in laughing day, health that mocks the doctor's rules, knowledge never learned of schools, of the wild bee's morning chase, of the wild flower's time and place, flight of fowl and habitude, of the tenants of the wood, how the tortoise bears his shell, how the woodchuck digs his cell, and the ground mole sinks his well, how the robin feeds her young, how the oriole's nest is hung, where the whitest lilies blow, where the freshest berries grow, where the groundnut trails its vine, where the wood grape's clusters shine, of the black wasp's cunning way, mason of his walls of clay, and the architectural plans of gray hornet artisans, for eschewing books and tasks, nature answers all he asks. Hand in hand with her he walks, face to face with her he talks, part and parcel of her joy, blessings on the Barefoot Boy. From The Barefoot Boy by John Greenleaf Whittier. Welcome, friends, back to the library. Congratulations on making it past the stuffy librarian at the front and joining us all the way here in the back to dig into another great work of classic literature. I'm your host, Sean Malarkey, one of your hosts. And I'm
the other one.
And the other one is here with me as well.
Daniel Moran.
As you recall, Daniel Moran.
Daniel Moran.
Daniel Moran's in the house, ladies and gentlemen. He's in the library. We have to talk with our inside voices.
The eternal library.
Is it a library of eternal proportions? Remember when we were trying to come up with the name? Remember when we were trying to
What was the first name that we had?
Oh, yeah. It's never been released to the public.
Maybe that's not something we should say.
Maybe if you sign up for our email list,
okay.
you can get... We'll let you in on the little secret for those who know. So, Daniel, this is actually a little bit of a momentous episode because at the time of this recording, we've actually released some episodes at this point.
It's true. We actually have some boots on the ground.
We actually did it. We have some troops on the beach. Yeah. So thank you to everyone who's listened thus far. Thus far, we have 2 episodes out. The first episode, which is called Books, Poems, Theology, Oh My, and the second one titled They're Taking the Hobbit to Erebor. We have the best titles here at the Eternal Library.
Sean comes up with all of them.
It's me and the Lord. It's when inspiration hits. You know what they say? They say that the muse often finds you working. And so
they also say lightning never strikes twice.
It's true. So this could be one and done for us. This could be like, we could have one season and be like, that's it. We can't outdo that. We can't do better than that. But in all seriousness, like, thank you guys who have already told us how you've enjoyed it. Thank you to all who have listened. Shout out to the students of Masters University who have provided some great feedback. Shout out to members of our church who have encouraged us with a lot of just good thoughts and good feedback. Yeah. Oh, so the email list.
There's an email list.
There's an email list.
Did you know that?
Yeah. Did you know that? So.
Email us.
Here's the full disclosure. Daniel and I do not have any social media. We don't got no Instagram.
Find us there.
You ain't gonna find us. You can search all you want. You ain't gonna find us there.
If you do find it, it's not real.
It's a bot. It's a Chinese bot trying to steal your information.
But we digress.
We digress a little bit. So if we don't have any social media presence, and so and that's kind of a choice that we make and part of our own personal convictions. So we don't have an Instagram, we don't have a Twitter, we don't have any of that. So how are we going to distill information out to y'all? The email list is how we have chosen to do so. So the link is in all the previous episodes. It'll be in this episode as well. So if you want to sign up, go for it. And when you do, as a little bonus, you'll get a curated list of Daniel and I's 18 favorite novels for you to dive into.
Such a coveted list.
Everyone's been talking about it. Everyone's been coming up to me and being like,
the last existing manuscript.
The original text. And so, so many people have said, we want a list of all your favorite books. And by so many people, I mean literally no one. But still.
But you want to peek at the list.
You want a little peek at that list, don't you? You want to take a look. What are these guys reading? When I was making the list, and I was looking at the list and I was like, this is a little shameless, but I was like, this is a good list.
Huh. Well, of course it is. These are our favorite books.
These are our favorite.
Some of the books that we'll be discussing in future episodes of
The
Eternal Library.
All right. Now that that's out of the way, I think it's time to move on to today's topic and today's novel, which I for one, am extremely excited about.
Oh, what a book.
I think this maybe is my favorite one that we've done so far.
So far, yeah.
So Daniel, do you want to talk about what we're doing today a little bit?
Yeah, so today we're going to be discussing The Adventures of Tom Sawyer by Mark Twain. And
Samuel Langhorne Clemens.
Otherwise known by his real name, Samuel Clemens, his pseudonym, or his pen name, Mark Twain. And Adventures of Tom Sawyer, published in 1876. This is a novel about a 12-year-old boy who has adventures in his neighborhood. I think it's Missouri, is it?
Oh, it's Missouri. It's Missouri.
Sean will have some thoughts about that for us later.
If you guys recall from our first episode, I am from Missouri. So there's an added layer of just love for this book, just for that
Sean
fact
grew up here.
I basically am Tom Sawyer.
And so the novel follows Tom Sawyer, a fictional 12-year-old boy who runs away from home after witnessing a crime, and him and his friends, Joe Harper and Huckleberry Finn, get into adventures and shenanigans and a few things we want to talk about today, but we'll get into them when we do, is just what it means to have an adventure, what it means to grow up and come of age as a boy, becoming a man, and how Christians should respond to these themes, and about Mark Twain himself and how he writes about themes like religion or morality and virtue, etc. But this novel is one of Mark Twain's earlier books.
Probably his best known, would you say?
Well, I'd say it's been slightly overshadowed by Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah.
Which was
for many different reasons.
But so this would be like the preamble to Huckleberry Finn. Because, and we won't be talking about Huckleberry Finn today, really, but if you open Huckleberry Finn to page 1, there's a disclaimer, and it says, you need to read Tom Sawyer in order to get the context of Huckleberry Finn. So Tom Sawyer, published before, written before, and the events that take place in the novel happen before Huckleberry Finn. So this is one of his better-known books, and written during a time of life when he was enjoying a comparative amount of prosperity and wealth. So, thanks for sharing that, Daniel.
There can be a temptation, similarly to how one might be tempted to read The Hobbit to get to Lord of the Rings. One might be tempted to simply breeze through Tom Sawyer to get to Huckleberry Finn. But I just have to say, that would be a mistake. Upon the last reading, which are really, I listen to the audiobooks because, I'm a busy bee over here. So I listen to the audiobooks typically to and from work every day. But this last listen through of Tom Sawyer, I was just like, I think this is one of my favorite books of all time.
It's a page turner for sure.
It's so much fun. It might be the funnest book we've done. We did Bad Beginning in the series of unfortunate events on the last one.
Most unfortunate.
But those are also humorous. They have a dose of humor in there, but it's couched in this horrible, almost nihilistic story that seems meaningless, which we talked about in the last. But this is just a romp. This is just hilarity. This is just fun and adventure. So again, I'm really excited to talk about it. As I mentioned before, I'm from Missouri. And so a book that takes place in Missouri is already on my in my good graces, already on my okay list. But it's just so fun. And the people in it, the adventures that the boys go on, the boys themselves, you talk about how we're going to talk about boyhood and what it means to grow up. This is I would say this is one of the best books for young men especially to read, because it celebrates boyhood, but it also has a lot to say about what it means to grow up and embrace manhood. And so boys is like, I would love for my sons, if I'm blessed with any, to like read Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. But of course, as I was alluding to, you got to read Tom Sawyer before you get to Huck Finn. I mean, Huck Finn probably is like the more culturally significant book, and is in some ways is the better book. But Tom Sawyer is just like, I don't know, how would you describe it? If you were going to compare the two, what does Tom Sawyer have compared to Huck Finn that's different, would you say?
Just the sheer pleasure of adventure. It's an homage to story. It's a, like you said, it's a romp. It's very fun. It's a great plot. It's the type of story that you can see adapted easily into a movie that's a crowd pleaser.
Yes, that's a good point.
Huckleberry Finn is a little bit more sophisticated, has some social critiques, and is a more mature novel because it's dealing with, it's probably okay to say it's dealing with deeper issues. Not that Tom Sawyer is a shallow book, but Huckleberry Finn is a more massive enterprise. Tom Sawyer is fun. It's an homage to playing, and an homage to jokes and shenanigans, and the kind of schemes that neighborhood kids get up to, and at a simpler time. I think Twain himself says, in a simpler time.
Yeah, the preface of the book talks about how like this book is about real things inspired from his own life. And he said a lot of the adventures, a lot of the shenanigans are things Mark Twain or boys he grew up with actually did. And so it is kind of an homage to just like boyhood and the mischievous things boys will get up to. Whereas Huck Finn is almost more philosophical. It's almost like, as you said, kind of like it's a social critique. And it is also just kind of like, this is oversimplification, but it is just like, what's the meaning of it all? We're like, what's going on with the world, man? What do we even do here? Why do we exist? Like, what's going on, bro? And it's kind of couched in this reinterpretation of the Odyssey, which is also like, so Huck Finn almost has like a source material that it's pulling from because he's doing his version of the Odyssey. Tom Sawyer is really more just about like Mark Twain's life and like what he loved about growing up in Hannibal, Missouri, which still exists today.
Is it still there?
You can go. It was about a 2 or 3 hour drive from where I grew up in St. Peters, Missouri. Which that's just another thing. The Tom Sawyer, the book, takes place in St. Petersburg, Missouri, which is a fictional town. But I read that and I'm like, it's St. Peters. St. Peters, Daniel, this is probably a good time to transition to talking about the man himself, Mark Twain. Mark Twain. You have anything you want to say about Marky Mark?
Well, Ernest Hemingway once said that the greatest American novel was Huckleberry Finn.
Probably true.
So that puts Mark Twain as the great American novelist. And a lot of people have made that claim. So he's a formidable writer in American literary culture. Steamboat captain, was born and raised, as you said, in Missouri, a businessman, writer, and no lover of religion, especially towards the end of his life.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Mark Twain has a lot to say about...
Well, I don't know, but I think if you say Mark Twain in the public domain, what comes to mind immediately are his witticisms.
Yeah.
His funny sayings, his quibs, his jokes.
Yeah. He's just a funny dude.
Yeah. Very clever, very sarcastic, and not disposed of shying away from saying what he wanted to say.
Yes. And in that way, he kind of is like, I wrote this in my notes, he is kind of an embodiment of America, the American spirit. Which, do you think it's
fair?
Sure.
No, yeah, he is.
Do you think it's fair to say Mark Twain is America?
I think that might be an overstatement, Sean. but we're getting there.
But like, let's think about his life and some of the things he got up to. Like so. Full disclosure: we used Canon Press's Worldview Classics study guide for the Adventures of Tom Sawyer to prepare for this book written by Toby Sumter. Toby, if you're listening and you want to come on the podcast,
come be on our podcast.
You want to talk about some Tom Sawyer? You want to talk about some Huck Finn? Like, come on down, Toby. Have your people contact our people. Let's get you on here. Let's go. Let's make it happen. But we digress. But we digress. So while I was going through this study guide, I was actually surprised by some of the things that Mark Twain got up to. Yeah, so he was a steamboat captain, as you had alluded to. He was also enlisted in the Confederates army during the Civil War, which is already like he's with the rebels who are rebelling against the rebels. So like that's like there's nothing more American than rebelling against people who are founded by rebels.
It's true.
And then but his outfit disbanded after like only 2 weeks, and then he headed out west to seek his fortune in the gold rush. And then like he wrote his first novel, The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County, which is like, what a title. Like, what a great, and then he went on to write Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, like all these books that are just quintessential like American things. And I wanted to read a quote from Helen Keller. When she met him, she said, he talked delightfully, audaciously, brilliantly, his talk fragrant with tobacco and flamboyant with profanity. He seemed to have absorbed all America into himself, which, let's be real, Helen Keller didn't see Mark Twain. Helen Keller didn't hear Mark Twain. but he made such an impression on her. She was able to say, like, it was as if he absorbed all America into himself. Like, and you look at like the events of his life, and he was involved in some of the major events that made America who it is today. Yeah. And so in a way, he is kind of an embodiment of like America. Mm-hmm. And that's just like, and you see like, you read Tom Sawyer, you read Huck Finn, specifically Tom Sawyer, since that's what we're talking about. You're just like, this book could never have been produced in like England. You know, it never, like an Englishman could have never written a book like this. Couldn't have done it. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on.
Yeah, because his life. You're right, because his life coincided with so many important events for the history of the nation, and so when he sits down to write his stories, you have that backdrop and that context, which is another reason why Tom Sawyer continues as an enduring classic, because it's situated in the middle of an important time for the nation. Mm-hmm. And I think he says in the preface, this book takes place some 30 or 40 years ago. The author says in the preface. And so the novel is situated in the antebellum South, which would be like the 1840s, before the Civil War.
Yeah, yeah.
And when he says it was a simpler time, it's talking about before the Civil War, before the secession of the South. Is that the right way to say it?
That's the right way to say it. The South. Not to be confused with cessationism. The cessationism of the South.
The whole another topic.
This isn't a theology podcast. You could go listen to, I don't know, John MacArthur for that one. Yeah. Do you think it's fair to say that he is romanticizing? Like, does he see the time period that Tom Sawyer takes place in as like the greatest point of America's history, or the greatest point of his lifetime? Do you think that's what he's doing there?
Well, so an interesting thing happens whenever an author sits down to write a novel about children, like an adult author, I mean, because that person is no longer a child.
Yeah.
And so they don't really think like a child. It's an adult man writing the novel, but all the main characters are kids.
Yeah.
And so the question you asked is he romanticizing the past? And Mark Twain's born in 1835. So if the novel is set sometime in the 1840s, it's set during the time when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And the characters are recognizable as people Mark Twain would have grown up with.
Yeah.
And you know, you can kind of see Mark Twain writing himself into Tom and Huck. And so it's the romanticization of your own childhood, which everybody, well, not everybody, but many people do.
I think we all do
to a certain extent, but not everybody. That's too large a claim.
Me and you have never ever romanticized our own childhood. We have never looked back on that and be like, "Oh, it was so much better then."
But it's an understandable thing to do, to look back on the past, especially a time of comparative innocence or play or freedom from responsibility, and to highlight the good things that were a part of that era of your life. And Tom is nothing if not free from responsibility.
Oh,
he resists responsibility. he disdains responsibility.
Yeah.
he removes himself from responsibility. Yeah. So there's a free sense to it, and that comes with a kind of romanticizing appreciation of a simpler time, or perceived simpler time. Mark Twain writing as an adult with all of his cares and concerns, looking back on the 1840s and saying, remember what it was like.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I think, because you mentioned that he shirks responsibility, he disdains responsibility. And I think that's part of the genius of the novel, is that Tom is kind of a hero, because we're going to, maybe this is a good time to talk about some of the themes you mentioned when we were kind of discussing what we were going to do with this episode. But you said that Tom Sawyer is like the hero of the modern age. And I'd love to hear you expand on that a little bit more. But what comes to mind is he shirks responsibility, which I think all of us kind of look at that, and it's almost like, because he's growing up in a society where all the adults are like hypocrites and they're stuffy and they're almost like pharisaical in a way. And Tom's like rebelling against their like hypocritical authoritarian.
Well, maybe this is good, because maybe we should start by talking about the adults first. And get that out of the way, because then it's so easy to contrast Tom and the rest of the kids once you see the adults. But so Tom is raised by his Aunt Polly, who, what would you describe her? I think she's a rule follower. She is a rule follower, but she's also like a hypocrite. Yeah, and she's petty, and she is just,
she's the worst.
She's the worst.
She's the worst kind of Christian.
Yeah.
And
she means well.
Means well, but she's also like the kind of Christian that none of us should aspire to be. There's a moment in the book, and let me see if I can find it in my notes, where this is on, actually, so here's a fun fact. Me and Daniel are using the exact same edition of Tom Sawyer to refer back.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, we're literally on the same page, finally. This is on page 29 of the Barnes & Noble edition, Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Shout out to Barnes & Noble. But Aunt Polly punishes Tom for something that he didn't do. And then she says, then her conscience reproached her, and she yearned to say something kind and loving, but she judged that this would be construed into a confession that she had been in the wrong, and discipline forbade that.
Yeah.
So even though she knows that she punished him unjustly for something she didn't do, she in her mind cannot confess that she did wrong to this kid, because adults are supposed to know better than kids, and adults are supposed to have all the answers, and adults cannot condescend to tell a child, I'm sorry, I sinned against you.
Yeah, for the sake of formality or the tradition. So Mark Twain says at another part later in the book, often the less there is to justify a traditional custom, the harder it is to get rid of it.
Oh, that's such a good line.
And so she's a slave to tradition. She doesn't have a passionate heart for Christianity or for the religion which she claims to obey. She's just enacting customs.
Yeah.
And Mark Twain is poking at that and saying it's smoke and mirrors, it's emptiness. There's nothing there. It's just tradition.
And there's kind of a superstition. It
absolutely.
as well, which is this may be jumping ahead, but Mark Twain's view of Christianity, spoiler alert, he regards it as very superstitious and not grounded in any real critical thinking or logical thought. It's all just superstition, and this comes out in the adults. And another good example is the episode, I think it's chapter 4, that takes place in church.
Oh,
and
great.
It's such a great scene. It's such a great scene. And there's a new judge in town. His name is Judge Thatcher, father of Becky Thatcher, who becomes Tom's love interest in the novel. And he walks into church. He just got into town, and he's like this big affluent man, and he's a judge, which is like a celebrity in the world, in that world the book takes place in. He walks in, and everyone puts on airs, and they're just all just oh my gosh, they want him to notice him. And he has this great line where he's just everyone was showing off. The Sunday school teacher was showing off. The male students were showing off. The girls were showing off. The pastor was showing off. Judge Thatcher loved it all because he himself was showing off.
Yeah.
So church is this place you go in the world of Mark Twain and the world of Tom Sawyer. It's this place you go to kind of exalt yourself. And I wrote in my notes that like when this happens in the church, like they're actually disobeying the Bible. They disobey James 2, where he says, do not show partiality to the great. Like if you say to someone, come and sit here because of their station, come and sit in the good spot, and you tell the person who's of low station to like go and sit somewhere else, you've shown partiality in the church of God, in the body of Christ, which we ought not to do, and that's sin. But everyone in this church in St. Petersburg, Missouri is showing partiality to this judge. And Tom, in his whole spirit, like rebels against that.
Right. Yeah. And it's Mark Twain's loudest message in the book is absolutely rebel against this 100%.
Yeah.
But so this is interesting, and this is worth talking about because Mark Twain has some valid criticisms to bring to his book about the church. But we would say that though it is right and good to identify those shortcomings, ultimately Mark Twain's arrogance wins out in his wholesale rejection of Christianity, because it's as if to say, well, look, this is how all Christians are.
Yeah.
They're all phonies.
Yes.
And they're all just performing a fake custom, the reasons of which they don't even realize.
Yeah.
And it's just an empty cultural tradition.
Yeah.
But that's not true. That's true of some places, but that isn't Christianity.
I think we've all had experiences with churches that are like that, and it should rightly be rebelled against.
Right.
And Toby Sumter makes a good point about how how Jesus's ministry, in a way, was a rebellion against the stuffy hypocrisy of the Pharisees.
Yeah.
And Jesus embraced kind of like a boyhood, childlike, mischievous innocence that rebels against the stuffy legalism of the religious establishment of his day. And so insofar as the church, like global church, is engaged in a legalism that exalts yourself, we as good Christians should rebel against that and kind of, as Twain does, kind of laugh at it and be like, look at you. Like, you guys don't even enjoy this.
Yeah.
Like, you guys even like being here. You're just here to like...
Yeah. It's tough because, a Christian could open the book and especially get to the chapter where there's the scene in church and feel guilty for reading this. Like, this is anti-Christian. I shouldn't be reading this. So it's a fine line and it's a delicate balance because Twain himself was not a Christian, decidedly so. But a Christian need not feel guilty or wrong or dirty for reading the church scene where he's making fun of Christians because there's a valid criticism to be understood there. And then there's a place where he takes it too far. And so there's discernment that's required. But he says that. Isn't there a line in that chapter where it's like nobody in the choir is having fun? And then Twain says, I think I once heard one time of a happy, good, pure, and righteous choir. Yeah. And it was somewhere else, far away, and in another period of history. So it's just like everyone who goes to church is just a slave to the system and melancholy about it, and it's just terrible.
They're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
There's also a great line where he's talking about the pastor's sermon and how just he drones on and on and on. And he says and then he talks about the reprobate, and then he whittles down the elect to a number hardly worth saving. Yeah. And so I don't know what theological tradition y'all come from. We're good Calvinists here at the Eternal Library, so we believe in the predestined elect of the Church of Christ. But Mark Twain used that doctrine as something stodgy and cruel, and it's like just a small, the smallest number of people you can imagine. That's who God's gonna save.
Which of course is funny because it's a misrepresentation of the actual doctrine. Yeah. But the way Twain words it is funny. Yeah. But it's also inaccurate. So discernment needed there.
There's also a solid, even though we would obviously disagree with Twain's worldview, there is almost there's a solidarity we can have with him in his critique of this, because I will like you said, that's a misrepresentation of the doctrine. So if you have a Mark Twain in front of you or someone who similar to him, you can say you are attacking a straw man, a caricature of what Christianity ought to be. And I'm in agreement with you that we should criticize and critique that. So let me show you what true joy-filled, full and righteous and good and pleasing Christianity is. What does it look like when someone is drinking deeply from the fountain of grace that flows from the throne of God? It looks like joy and love and peace and hope and fun. Some of you might think fun is like too small of a word or too weak of a word, but Christians should have fun. Christians should enjoy themselves. Christians should enjoy like good food, good drink, good art, good everything, like sports and activities and contests of strength. Like Christians should enjoy these things. But unfortunately for Mark Twain, it seems that he was presented with a form of Christianity that kind of denigrates some of these things that humans are just naturally inclined to want to enjoy. So,
yeah, if Christianity were truly what Mark Twain paints it to be, it would be pathetic.
Yes, and I would say you're right to avoid that. So, Daniel, we've talked a lot about the adults in the book.
Yeah.
We've talked about the world that Tom Sawyer and his friends find themselves in, and now we got to talk about the character himself, Tom Sawyer. So
contrasted to this world where, as Twain perceives it and sketches it, everyone is enslaved to empty tradition and meaningless custom. Tom Sawyer is a thoroughgoing, free-thinking individualist who makes his own way in life, and if he sees something that doesn't make sense to him or appears tedious, he cuts corners. And this is nowhere better demonstrated than in the scene where he's told that he needs to paint the fence.
Which is probably, if you've never read the book, you probably know about this scene.
So he's given a meaningless chore. Well, it's apparently meaningless,
but it's a punishment.
Yeah,
it's like the fence needs to be painted, but he's forced to paint it because it's his punishment for disobeying the.
I forget what he does too.
I think he plays hooky. He plays hooky, which the school is another place where just like the schoolmaster is another.
A lot of meaning in it.
The school it's not that education is wrong, but like the schoolmaster, Tom's schoolmaster, is just a friggin' dweeb. And he doesn't care about these kids. He's just there to like make their lives miserable and take them away from good, fun play. And so Tom escapes that. His Aunt Polly catches him in the act, and then she's like, "Guess what? You're gonna paint this fence now." Yeah. So he's there as a punishment.
But then he doesn't do it. He hires somebody else to do it for him, and he becomes a businessman. And it's very funny the way he talks people into it. And one of the most important paragraphs of the book is probably the paragraph that occurs in this scene, where Twain establishes. I think it's on page 24. Mm-hmm. He establishes if he had been a wise philosopher, saying about Tom, like the writer of this book, then Tom would have now comprehended that work consists of whatever a body is obliged to do, and that play consists of whatever a body is not obliged to do. And so Tom wants to play.
Yes.
There's no obligations that are governing his life. Yeah. He's free.
Yeah.
And so when Aunt Polly says, you got to do this chore, you got to paint this fence, his heart rebels.
Yes.
And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. But what's interesting is he ends up accomplishing the task.
Yeah.
He just does it in a roundabout kind of shady way, which is funny and also industrious in a weird way.
Yeah. And again, Toby Sumter, thanks again for your work. Makes the point of how that's kind of what it means to grow up, is to find creative and industrious ways to accomplish great things as part of the new humanity that Christ is building. And so Tom finds a way to accomplish the task, but he does it in a creative way, but with a little hint, not even a hint, a lot of rebellion in it, which you mentioned another book before we hit record. You mentioned another author who kind of
there's Lermontov, the Russian writer who writes Hero of Our Time.
Yeah.
The Russian author Lermontov writes about a new type of hero for the modern era, but the book is a joke. It's a nihilistic portrayal of a cad, a person who deceives women, and he's a womanizer, and he's a scheming, corrupt businessman. But at the end of the book, he wins. And he has all this money, and he's content in his badness. So I think there's an edge to the Tom Sawyer novel that is cynical and is showing Twain's cynicism in response to the industrial age.
Yeah.
That virtue doesn't win anymore. If you're going to make it ahead in this life, in the world of machines and corrupt politics, in the world of America, you have to be like Tom Sawyer. When you're told to paint the fence, you have to hire somebody else to do it. And so it's partly noble. I think Mark Twain is partly commending Tom for doing it, but he's also partly winking at the reader going, this is funny. This isn't supposed to be how it is. This isn't a pure, romantic era hero, like something that Lord Byron would have written about, at the beginning of the 1800s. This is a joke. But that's the modern era, or that's the commentary on the modern era that Twain is creating.
Yeah, which kind of betrays his Christian worldview, even though he wouldn't call himself a Christian, or maybe he would, I don't know, because it was just like, culturally, that was just kind of what you did culturally then. But it kind of betrays that he lives in an age that is steeped in a Christian worldview, because it's the Protestant work ethic, right? We should work hard with our hands. Paul even tells us to do that so that we might have something to share with others. And like shirking hard work and shirking responsibility is something that the immature do. And so Tom does it. It's kind of this, it's weird. It's like, because you want to root for Tom.
Yeah,
like,
of
so
course.
we like we do root for Tom. Like we look at Tom and we are like, I kind of want to be like him. But at the same time, if the world was full of people like Tom Sawyer, it'd be a terrible world.
Yeah, he's an anti-hero.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote that in my notes, and I was gonna ask you if you thought that Tom was an. I was gonna ask you if you thought that Tom was an anti-hero.
Yeah, absolutely. No, there's no question about it. Because another thing, it's not just that he's cunning and dishonest with his work. When he does run away from home, admittedly for not altogether bad reasons, he throws himself fully into a world of play and adventure at the cost of other people's safety.
Yeah. And at the cost of other people's like emotional well-being. Like a little bit. So again, we do spoilers here in the Eternal Library. So if you
we're just gonna give away the book right now.
If you don't want to hear spoilers, turn it off now. But Tom and Huck and Joe Harper fake their own deaths.
and it's funny. I'm laughing about it just now. But
it's hilarious. And they run off to Jackson's Island to go pirating, and they're gone for a couple of days, and everyone in the town thinks that they're dead to the point that they have a funeral for them. And Tom sneaks back at the end of the night, and he hears his Aunt Polly in their cabin just bemoaning how she wasn't gentler and kinder to him when he was alive. They all think they're dead. And Tom is like,
Tom loves it.
Yeah, he loves it.
He's eating it up.
This is what he's always wanted, is to be like wanted. Is to be missed like this. And in fact, there's this thread that runs throughout the book where whenever Tom is treated unjustly, he always fantasizes about what it would be like to be dead. And how real talk, I've done that. I think this is why it's such a good book for boys, because like every single boy, like whether you're like in our immature minds, when a wrong is done to us or a perceived wrong is done to us, we just are just like, if I wasn't around, then you would miss me. You would like, you'd feel so bad if I wasn't here, and blah blah blah. And like, I thought so many times when I was growing up, like if I just ran away or if I died, my mom would like wish she hadn't like spanked me or whatever. Yeah.
And it's immaturity. Like this is one of the ways that it's an homage to Boyhood. Because many men can identify with Tom's internal mental dialogue. But it doesn't make it right or mature. At one point, I think he's talking with Becky. And Becky starts to cry because he says something insulting to her. And then he goes into a long tirade about how girls are fools, which is just another example of immature boy talk, which nevertheless many men can identify with feeling that at some point in their life, whether justifiably so or otherwise. And so that's another way that the Tom is a hero not just for the modern era, but he's an anti-hero for men.
Yeah. Twain has like such a gift, and this is why I think the book works so well. He has such a gift for just pinpointing exactly the way boys are. Like, it's the most real thing. It's the most real presentation of boyhood I think I've ever read in a novel.
Yeah, one of the chapters opens, there comes a time in every rightly constructed boy's life when he has a raging desire to go somewhere and dig for hidden treasure.
Yes.
And you just read that and you go, why should it be that way?
Yeah.
But then you kind of feel like, oh yeah, but that sounds accurate.
And I'm sitting here as a 32-year-old man, and if someone came up to me and just like, we're going to hitch up the covered wagon, we're going to go off, we're going to find some hidden treasure, I'd be like, sign me the heck up. Like, let's freaking go. Like, they escape it to Jackson's Island because they want to go pirating. And it's so funny. They're like, again, they've been treated unjustly by the world around them, and they're just like, might as well go be a pirate.
Yeah.
So, that's their solution to the problem. They're like, nobody here understands us. Nobody gets us. Like, we can't do anything right. All our parents are always like disciplining us for things that aren't our faults. Let's just go be pirates.
Yeah. That's like the best answer to every situation.
Yeah, that's such a boy solution. It's like, I'm gonna run away from home and I'm just gonna be a pirate. Like everybody's done that. Everybody's thought that.
Yeah, in some way or another, because pirates represent freedom. You can do whatever you want. You make the rules. Nobody's has authority over you, and you can break the law.
Yeah, you can break the law and it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. Pirates are cool. Pirates are dope.
The Eternal Library does not endorse the crime of piracy.
Not the crime of piracy, but the romanticization of the crime of piracy we do very much endorse. Treasure Island, ever heard of it? We'll probably do it at some point.
Treasure Island, book?
The book, not to be confused with the movie. You're talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, right? That's the same.
The Pirates of the Caribbean, I noticed a lot of similarities in that movie with Tom Sawyer.
Oh, okay. Talk about that.
So the novel is one of adventure.
Yeah.
And Tom, we just said he wants to go pirating with his friends. So the spirit of adventure pervades the book. And then you and I talked about this, Sean, like at a certain point, it's all fun and innocent, but there are a few scenes where Twain seems to pull the curtain back and write something that's truly dark.
Yeah. Like, again, spoiler, Tom and Huckleberry Finn, we need to talk about Huckleberry Finn as the character, by the way. But before we get to that, Tom and Huck witness a murder at one point, and that's a huge plot point. It actually becomes the thing that the whole book like centers around. But yeah, there's this darkness. As they're seeking out adventure, they seek out like play adventure. Like, none of this is real. Like, they don't actually think they can go be pirates, but they're going to pretend to be pirates.
Yeah.
And then in all this quest for adventure, they find themselves in a real adventure that's actually like really real, like, and real stakes are like someone's been killed. And the question that is asked of our characters is like, are they going to do the right thing?
Right.
So there is like this maturity, this upward trajectory for Tom and Huck, where they start as boys and they're still boys at the end, but they have learned manhood along the way.
And the adventure doesn't turn out the way they thought, because they thought it would be fun pirating and stuff, and it ends up being something very adult and serious and grim. Remember the part in The Lord of the Rings when Frodo is reflecting about, he's in Rivendell and he meets with Bilbo, and he says, I always imagined I'd go with you on one of your adventures, but my own adventure turned out to be quite different.
That's a good point.
Bilbo's adventure is also unpleasant and scary, but it's sort of romanticized in Frodo's mind. And Frodo's adventure is full of terror and pain and
full of like literal demons.
Nothing is bright or uplifting or happy about Frodo's journey. So there's a loss of innocence. And when the boys go out to go pirating and live in Sherwood Forest and, joke and play, the real world invades their space. Yeah. And it happens in the scene where the murder takes place, and that happens in a couple of other places as well.
Yes, maybe we should talk a little bit about that scene, because it is like
Injun Joe.
So the villain of the story is a man by the name of Injun Joe.
Injun Joe is what they call him.
Yeah, so we're sorry if that offends your sensibilities, but
that's what the book says.
That's what he says. That's the name of the guy. So Injun Joe, a Native American. This is Twain's words. A Native American half-breed. So why do you think he says that? Like, why do you think it's important to mention that he's a half-breed?
Well, I actually thought about it, and I don't think it's too hard to see why that character is cast into the villain role for a number of reasons. You could say Mark Twain is a racist. Sure enough, probably, maybe he was. I don't know. You could also say that it's easy to cast as a villain a type of person who is not belonging to the predominant white community of which the novel boasts all of its major characters.
Yeah.
But also think about Tom himself, the boy, does not have a lot of interaction with American Indians.
Yeah.
And to see somebody who is other, somebody who's different from him, probably produces in him the kind of fear that's appropriate to a villainous role.
Yeah.
And Injun Joe is truly terrifying.
Yeah.
But he just so happens to be a non-white.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. You think, are you saying that it kind of reflects Twain's view of non-white folks?
It could,
Yeah.
but I'm saying it doesn't need to be that because it could be a projection of Tom's brain.
Oh, I see.
Like Tom isn't familiar with this people group, so he's cast them into the role of scary villains. But at the same time, Injun Joe is a murderer.
Yeah.
So it just so happens that the two coincide
Yeah.
and that he does turn out to be the villain that Tom imagines him to be.
Yeah, it's not simply that he's a Native American. Like, the character,
that's beside the point, really.
The character is legitimately monstrous.
Yes.
At the end, towards the end of the book, they discover a plot by Injun Joe where he's going to basically torture the widow Douglas, who's like this rich matriarch of the town, and her husband was a judge that Injun Joe was brought to him on some like petty charge, like he was caught housebreaking or something, and the judge had him horsewhipped. And so, but the judge has since died, and so Injun Joe's plot to get revenge against him is by mutilating his widow. So he's going to sneak into this house, and the things he says he's going to do to her are like horrendous. Yeah. And you're like, this guy is a monster. And like, he's the villain of the story, and he is the foil that he's the catalyst that brings real adventure to Tom and Huck's life. So they come up against like something that is truly evil, and they have to grow and mature and learn to do the right thing. So,
yes. And it really happens. I mean, it happens in a number of places, but it happens in the cave.
Yeah.
When Tom has to save Becky.
Yes.
Becky's crying, and it becomes not fun anymore. And the adventures, it's similar in The Hobbit when there's that line where Bilbo has to walk into the dragon's lair, and it says if he took one more step, it was the bravest thing he ever did.
Yeah.
But that's in a hallway.
Yeah.
There's no ships at sail and glorious music playing in the background. So the truly courageous thing is something that's much more simple and very adult. And he has to go find Becky and take her out of the scary dark cave. And it's not glorious or glamorous.
Yes. That's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that cave scene is the scene where Tom like ultimately becomes a man. And there's little moments of like maturity along the way, but like for instance, the best scene besides that is the scene where Tom like gives his takes the witness stand at the trial. So to put context to it, Tom and Huck witness Injun Joe murder someone, and he frames the town drunk Muff Potter as the man who actually did it, and everyone believes it was Muff Potter that killed this. Tom and Huck know the truth, and so their consciences are pricking them the entire time throughout the novel as they see like Muff Potter's carted off to jail, then he's put on trial, and he's going to be given the death sentence if he's found guilty. And Tom and Huck swore that they weren't going to tell anyone what they saw because they want to save their skins, but Tom, at the end of the day, his conscience won't let him. And so he steps forward to give his testimony of what he saw. And he steps up to the witness stand, which again, like the courtroom is just another one of those institutions where just adults kind of like put on airs. Like the lawyer who's questioning Tom, he's just like, "What were you doing there?" And he was like, we brought a dead cat to." So they brought a dead cat to the graveyard. Actually, I'm just gonna read it. I know we're getting off track, but this is like so good. This is why they went to the graveyard in the first place. They're gonna bring a dead cat there because they believe dead
good luck or something.
No, it's a tool to cure warts. Listen to this. So Huck has a dead cat. This is the first time we meet Huck Finn, by the way. Huck Finn, frigging gem of a character. Like, holy cow.
Son of the town drunk,
not Muff Potter. There's two town drunks. Yeah. There's Muff Potter, and there's
Pat Finn.
and there's Pat Finn. And so Tom Sawyer meets Huck Finn. Huck Finn's got this dead cat. Tom's like, what are you going to do with that dead cat? What can you do with it? What good's a dead cat? A valid question. Valid question. And Huck says, this is on page 53, why you take your cat and go, you have to say it in this accent. Like, why you take your cat and go and get in the graveyard long after midnight when somebody that was wicked has been buried. And when it's midnight, a devil will come, or maybe 2 or 3, but you can't see them. You can only hear they're taking that fellow away. You heave your cat after him and say, devil follow corpse, cat follow devil, warts follow cat. I'm done with ye. That'll fetch any wart. To which Tom says, sounds right.
Sounds right.
You ever try it, Huck? No, but old Mother Hopkins told me. Well, I reckon it's so then, because they say she's a witch. Say, why, Tom, I know she is. She witched Pap. Pap says so his own self. He come along one day, and he says she was a witching him. So he took up a rock, and if she hadn't dodged, he'd have got her. Well, that very night, he rolled off in a shed where he was laying drunk and broke his arm.
Yeah, it's proof.
That's proof. Like, the old town drunk rolled over and broke his arm. It's because he was bewitched.
Yeah. See, this is hilarious dialogue.
It's the best. It's the freaking best. But back to the main point. Yes. Circling back around. They're in this graveyard because they're gonna see if they can actually use this dead cat to cure warts. They witness the murder, and then Tom says to the lawyer, we were there, we had our dead cat. And the lawyer says, oh, we'll produce the skeleton of that cat as evidence. It's like, no, you won't. Yeah. Like, it's just, again, he's just saying
he's
stuff.
Trying to sound real professional.
Yeah. But the point is, like, Tom says the truth. He says, Injun Joe did it. Injun Joe flies out of the courtroom. He escapes. He goes into hiding. Tom does the right thing in that moment when he gives his testimony and tells the truth. He does the right thing. But then he receives a lot of like pomp and circumstance and laurels about it, and he just eats it up. And there's a line I can't remember, but it's like he was like the town hero. There were some who said that he would be president if he didn't hang first. And like, so he's like, he does the right thing, but then he receives all this credit and like good, and he just eats it up. Yeah. And so like, he does the right thing, but then he kind of like just exalts himself in it.
Yeah.
So the cave, going back to my original point, he becomes a man in the cave because there's nobody's there to
applaud him.
Yeah, exactly. And he has to look out for Becky. He has to be a man and serve this woman and put her needs above his own. And he makes sure she eats. He gives her the bigger portion of like the cake they have. He like makes sure she gets enough water, and he like leaves her there in the dark so that he can go into the unknown to find a way out, not knowing if he'll ever find his way back to her. And that is when Tom really becomes a man, because it's not about like the applause, as you said, that you're going to get from it. It's about just doing the right thing and serving this woman and looking out for her needs and making sure she survives, even if you die. And that's like what it means to be a man. That's Ephesians 5 is in a nutshell. Like, love your wives the way Christ loved the church, giving yourself up for her, that you might sanctify her. Like, you give up your life for your wife if you are married. And that's what it means to be a man. And Tom, part of what it means to be a man, don't want to oversimplify it, but that's a huge component, is like self-sacrificial, joyful giving of self.
To no greater love than to lay down your life for your friends.
Yes, Jesus, the most masculine man who ever lived, laid down his life for others, for his bride. We're called to do the same. And that's what Tom winds up doing in the cave. And luckily, or providentially, he comes out of it. He comes out of it in the end, and they survive, and they do get a lot of pomp and circumstance and a lot of applause, and they're treated as heroes, but it's different. Like, it's a different kind of his response.
Because he's passed through that threshold. He knows what it's like to be truly scared and vulnerable, and it's sickening. The moment of actual bravery isn't glamorous, and there's no glory attached to it. You're in a dark room, no one's watching, and it's confronting yourself is what it is, and confronting your own fear. And so he goes into a dark place, and that's another way that he's the quintessential hero. He goes into a dark place and comes out to live to fight another day.
And he comes out, as in most great adventure stories, he comes out rich. They're like
again, hilarious.
Like, spoiler alert, they go into the cave looking for treasure, and spoiler alert, they find treasure. They find like $1 billion worth of gold, and then Tom and Huck just like take the gold. But then, wouldn't you know it, the adults take the gold, and they're just like, we're going to invest all this for you.
Yeah.
Like, Tom and Huck they're still boys at the end. They want to take the gold, and they want to just spend it and, like, have fun with it, and just do whatever they want with it and just live it up. And all the adults are just like, we're going to, like, put some of this aside for you and make sure
this goes to the banks.
Yeah. So wonderful themes throughout the whole novel. Was there anything else that you wanted to touch on about the novel itself, Daniel, or like the themes that run through it or anything?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we cut this part out, but there was something that we had talked about, like when the adventure is heightened and we kind of just mentioned it because it's the scenes where Tom is forced to become a grown adult, but the adventure turns dark. Like, let's go back to the cave.
Yeah.
Mark Twain is charming and funny and witty in most of his descriptions, like the church scene, the school, etc. When you get into that cave, you get the sense that Mark Twain has, I don't know, like he didn't have his coffee that morning. Or something. Like he's describing the cave in the most horrific, descriptive paragraphs that you can imagine, that the cave goes on forever. And if you go in there, you won't come out again. It's like hell.
Yeah.
And then the fate of the villain of the novel, Injun Joe, is that he died in there.
He starves in there.
Yeah, and he goes crazy because he can't find his way out, and he's in pitch black darkness, and his bones are there to this day, and they'll be there for eternity. And it's like hell.
Yeah.
And it's so dark, and you go, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah. You want to read that part? It's on page 210 and 211.
Why don't you read it?
Okay, because I'm already there.
210. Yeah, because you're there. I need to find it.
Yeah.
Start us off.
So it's a little long, bear with me, but so context, Injun Joe, like, they seal up the cave after Tom and Becky get out. The town fathers, like, seal up the cave so that people can't get lost in there anymore. And Tom had encountered Injun Joe in the cave while he was trying to work his way out. He was hiding in there. And then Tom learns that the cave is sealed up, and he's just like, Injun Joe's in the cave, which, by the way, that's another sign of, like, maturity, because Injun Joe's, like, a wicked, evil man. But Tom is just like, no, there's a human being in the cave. We got to do something about it. So despite Joe's wickedness, like, Tom understands, like, we can't let him just die like that.
Yeah.
We can't let him.
There's a seed of virtue in his heart.
Yeah.
And
It's,
also, it grants humanity to the villain character, which shows the sign of a good novel, that Injun Joe isn't typecast as being all bad.
Yeah.
He has some dignity of life in him, and Tom recognizes it, which is another way that makes Tom a good hero, anti-hero though he is.
Yeah,
good traits.
which means Twain recognizes that. Again, like, he can't escape. Like, you can't escape being made in the image of God, no matter how cynical you are of His church. Like, Twain recognizes that this man has inherent dignity and worth, villain though he be. And so that's part of why it makes what we're about to read so just like, because it's like, can you imagine a human being who should live long and prosperous days just experiencing this? So on that note, we're going to read the fate of Injun Joe. The poor unfortunate had starved to death, and one place near at hand, a stalagmite had been slowly growing up from the ground for ages, builded by the water drip from a stalactite overhead. The captive had broken off the stalagmite, and upon the stump had placed a stone, wherein he had scooped a shallow hollow, to catch the precious drop that fell once every 3 minutes, with the dreary regularity of a clock tick, a dessert spoonful once in 24 hours. That drop was falling when the pyramids were new, when Troy fell, when the foundations of Rome were laid, when Christ was crucified, when the conqueror created the British Empire, when Columbus sailed, when the massacre at Lexington was news. It is falling now. It will still be falling when all these things shall have sunk down the afternoon of history in the twilight of tradition and been swallowed up in the thick night of oblivion. Has everything a purpose and a mission? Did this drop fall patiently during 5,000 years to be ready for this flitting human insect's need? And has it another important object to accomplish 10,000 years to come? No matter. It is many and many a year since the hapless half-breed scooped out the stone to catch the priceless drops. But to this day, the tourist stares longest at the pathetic stone and that slow dropping water when he comes to see the wonders of McDougal's cave. Injun Joe's cup stands first in the list of the cavern's marvels. Even Aladdin's palace cannot rival it. Like, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But
very dark.
Yeah.
Like, and so, not to immediately shift attention, but I mentioned earlier, it reminds me of the movie Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes.
Which is also a Disney movie, a funny, happy, otherwise kind of innocent adventure of a bunch of pirates getting up to shenanigans, and there's jokes.
Yeah.
But then there are scenes when one of the pirates talks about being spat up out of hell,
Yeah.
and it gets very dark suddenly and abruptly and in kind of an inappropriate way, and you think, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And I think it's Twain's envisioning of the spirit of adventure, which always seeks to escalate into extremes.
Yeah.
And it's reflective of Tom's attitude towards adventure, which is also, if taken far enough, if Tom was given enough time of day, and if he was given enough resources, and if he knew he wasn't going to get caught for it, his adventureness would escalate, and it would lead to these extremes. So at the very end, as though it were like a climactic moment, Twain removes the restraint, and he describes the cave in these like cosmic descriptions.
Yeah.
And it like, you wanted adventure, you got it. And it's more than you could have swallowed. It's more than you have the stomach for.
Yeah.
I gotta pee. Oh, what should we do?
Keep it recording.
Okay,
we'll
all
just
right.
keep it recording. I'll cut out all this. Sorry, folks. This is what happens when you drink a 40-ounce Stanley Mugs cup of full of water while you're recording. But yeah, so to your point about McDougal's cave and Injun Joe, like, I had a thought as well.
Yeah.
And so Twain, as we established earlier, he's a little bit of a cynic, and like every cynic that's ever lived, you kind of mask your cynicism with humor, which is what he does. And that's why the book is so funny, because he's poking fun at legitimate concerns in his society. But here, and you kind of already said this, but he pulls the mask back a little bit, and you can almost hear him saying, like, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Like, is there a point to this water drop that fell?
Yeah, it becomes like an existential thing.
Yeah, he becomes a philosopher.
Yeah, you're
suddenly.
like, what is this?
Yeah. He's like, did this thing, was this thing made just so this man could like just scoop water from it every like few hours to subsist until he succumbed to death? Is that why this is here? Is that why this was made? Is that why this exists? And his conclusion is no matter. Like, you don't know. You just don't know. Like, and then there's kind of like a cynicism. Like, the tourist comes, because McDougal's cave becomes a tourist attraction, and people come and stare longest at that thing. They're fascinated by death. And he's like, this man died horribly here, and all we can do is just kind of be interested in it. So it just kind of reveals the cynicism in Mark Twain's heart. And yeah, it's dark, but it kind of reveals the man as well. And you kind of see like just what cynicism can do to a soul, where you're just like, I don't even know if there's a point to anything. Yeah. And it's kind of a warning. It's a little bit of a warning for us that like we should not become so what's the phrase I'm looking for? So disillusioned with the world that we see the death of another human being as like pointless in its importance. So yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. Daniel, we've talked a lot about the book. We've talked a lot about the themes. Are there any other particular parts of the book that you just love, that just bring joy? Because you know what we do here? We delight. Yeah. We don't just talk about it and discuss and analyze. We delight and enjoy good books here at the Eternal Library. So what are some moments that you just love?
I wrote down this quote, which is on page 69, which I think might be my favorite line of the book. They said they would rather be outlaws a year in Sherwood Forest than president of the United States forever. That's reflective of their boyhood spirit. They just want to have fun in the woods. They don't want money or power or political influence. They just want to be outlaws in their imaginary world. And there's something romantic about that, or romanticized, idealized about that. But I always remember a funny story, because the first time I heard about the book and my first exposure to it, because my dad read it and really enjoyed it, and I think his favorite scene is when, do you remember when, what's one of the neighbors or something, and Huckleberry is trying to meow to get Tom to come out at night. Yeah. And he's meowing, and then the neighbor says, "Darn that cat," and then Huck says, "So I hove a brick through his window."
Huck Finn, the man. Huck Finn is just the best character.
Why did you do that? The story is replete with this silly escapades just of boys. Like, I was trying to call you last night. I was meowing like a cat, and the neighbor said something, so I hove a brick through his window. Like, what? That was dumb.
This is a good moment because, like, we've kind of already talked about my favorite points in the book. So I don't want to talk about Huck Finn for just a second. Huckleberry Finn, the titular character of the sequel, or spiritual sequel, however you want to classify it. Huck Finn is just, he's son of the town drunk. He's a hero in a world of, like, amongst the boys, he is like a hero. And son of the town drunk, doesn't ever go to school, wears dirty, patched up clothes. He's just everything all the boys aspire to be. He's actually, like, doing it. He's free to go wherever he wants. He cusses, he drinks, he smokes. There's a scene when they're, like, ran away pirating, and Huck Finn pulls out his pipe and starts to smoke, and Tom and Joe are just like, let us have a little puff on that. And so he teaches them to smoke, and then Tom and Joe get sick and they go and throw up, and then they come back, and
Huck's fine with it.
And Huck's just like a champ, just like puffing on his pipe and just being like, doesn't bother me none. And so he's just like this, what's the phrase? He's this
he's not trained.
Yeah, he's not trained. He's not domesticated. He's this enigmatic figure to Tom and the rest of the boys. And at the end of the book, the widow Douglas wants to, like, adopt him into her home and, like, kind of raise him as her own and, like, domesticate him a little bit. And Huck, like,
she wants to civilize
him. She makes him put on, like, nice clothes. She's going to make him go to school. She's going to make him go to church. And he, like, runs away and goes and hides in, like, a barrel somewhere. He, like, sleeps in barrels. Yeah. That's, like, his thing. Doesn't sleep indoors.
He's feral.
Yeah, he's feral. That's exactly what he is. He's feral. And Tom goes and, like, finds him and basically convinces him to go back because he's just like, oh, it's just like another adventure, Huck. You got to treat it like another adventure. But Huck wants nothing else. And Huckleberry Finn, the novel, is the story of what happens when Huck does run away from the people who want to, like, domesticate him. But in Tom Sawyer, he's just this this enigmatic figure who does whatever he wants, goes wherever he wants. And he's just freaking hilarious. And he's, like, the source of, like, a lot of the superstitions that the other boys. Yeah, he's the one who's just like, oh, you can cure warts with a dead cat. Like, or he's like, we all know boys like that. We all know boys like that growing up, whether in your church or in your school, boys who, like, are just like, if you, like, bury a bunch of gold and say, like, some magic words over it, there will be 10 times as much the next time you go to dig it up.
And then equally completely devastated if by accident does something that the superstitions tell you not to do. Yeah. Like a spider crawled on my shoulder and I flicked it off. Yeah. But I just so happened to flick it into the lamp. And the spider burned, so I'm gonna have bad luck for 2 weeks. Or
And he just freaking he believes it. Like after they hear, like, there's a funny moment where after they witness the murder, Injun Joe's murder, they, like, run away and then they hear a dog howling. And they're just like, was it to the left or was it to the right? Because if it's on the left, that's bad. And then they were like, wait, it's like,
you have to stop and discuss it.
They're just like, wait. Because if they hear a dog howling, it's like a bad omen. It means they're going to die. And they just witnessed some murder. So there's all this superstition wrapped up in it. And then they're like, wait a minute. It sounds like he's going off that way. Well, he couldn't have been on our left then. And they're like, oh, thank God. It's this like silly superstition that's contrasted with the superstition of, like, the religious adults. And it's just so much fun. Like, Huck Finn is, like, a great character.
He's also an interesting character too, because whereas Tom Sawyer has the spirit of rebelliousness in him, he's been raised, though, in a home by his aunt. And he has a sister, Mary. And he has friends and he goes to school and he's integrated into society. Huck Finn is actually abused. His dad is an abusive drunk. And there's no mom in the picture. There are no women in his life at all. And his father's a drunkard and beats him, and so Huck Finn is more adult and more rugged and
That's
rough.
a good point. Yeah.
And so that's why when Huck is around, it's funny because he doesn't know any better. He isn't socialized like Tom is. And he's prone to say things and do things that are totally unexpected.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Yeah.
But then in the next novel, it's no longer Adventures of Tom Sawyer, it's Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. And that's another reason why, okay, now we're going to follow this character who doesn't have the same moral context that most of the community was raised in.
Yeah.
He's going to go farther, and it's going to be a more wild and
that's a good
intense narrative. Yeah.
That's a good point. Huck Finn's adventure takes him out of the town and out of the county, and I think even out of the state.
Yeah,
he
goes far.
Yeah.
But he goes far, morally too.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the same, Tom, if let's say it was Tom Sawyer, but Huckleberry Finn was Tom, they switch roles.
Yeah.
We don't know what Huck would have done inside the cave. Because he's the kind of anti-hero who you actually don't know what he's going to do because he didn't come from the part of the neighborhood that you were raised in. He's kind of an outcast.
Yeah, but he still has...
But a lovable one.
A heart of gold. Yeah. But he still has... This is, outside of the scope of Tom Sawyer, but you see in Huck Finn that he does have a moral conscience.
Yes.
And that's revealed through his relationship with Jim, a runaway slave who, much like Injun Joe, is like denigrated in society, viewed as lesser, has no rights, isn't treated as a human, and Huck Finn embraces him and treats him as his friend. And it just, again, highlights the innocence of boyhood and how boys just don't understand the adult world. And they can, much like how Jesus says, to become part of the kingdom of the Lord, you must become like little children. You must be innocent as doves and wise as serpents. And Huck, though he is in a volatile situation and though he does not have the same context, the same moral context as his boys, he has almost more of a conscience. And that's revealed in Huck Finn through his relationship to Jim and the way he treats him like a man.
Well, and he also horribly mistreats Jim. He does horrible things to Jim.
Yeah.
Probably because of the context of the slave-free man relationship. But then the centerpiece of that novel is a key decision that Huck makes to risk his life for Jim.
Yeah.
And that's what we're referring to is Huck makes a sacrificial decision to save Jim, and that shows his heart towards him.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting because look at this cast of characters that Mark Twain comes up with. They're not the conventional heroes of Victorian literature.
That's a good point.
That's another thing that makes this an American novel, is these are
they're rebels.
These are rebels. These are misfits, man. And that's America. Old America, maybe.
Yeah. No, but for real, Twain is about a generation or two removed from the American Revolution, and so he would have grown up around people who fought in the war to free us from tyranny, and so his people, his characters, reflect that spirit a lot more than if it would have been written today. So.
Yeah, but they're also this is not George Washington and the cherry tree. Tom is a liar, and so is Huck, and so are all the characters. But their morality or their capacity for virtuous decisions comes out in their own way, and so we see it for this new generation of heroes that Twain's describing. It's good.
It's really good. Great book.
It's a good book.
Daniel, final thoughts on Tom Sawyer?
It's much more lighthearted, I think, than its successor or its sequel.
Yeah.
It's also shorter. Worth reading. It's a great, fun adventure story filled with humor and suspense. I like Tom Sawyer. I think you probably like Tom Sawyer better than Huck Finn. I tend to like Huck Finn better, actually. So,
I don't know. It's a tough...
They're two separate books. It's hard to even compare them, but Huckleberry Finn is a book that I enjoy more.
Yeah, I think it depends on whichever one I'm currently reading. When I read, whichever one I read most recently, right now, fresh off of Tom Sawyer, rereading it, and I'm just the greatest book ever written.
Yeah.
If I picked up Huck Finn and started to read it right now, it would probably be the greatest book ever written.
Yeah.
And I think that would be my closing thought, is that it is one of the greatest books ever written. Not just, and one of the most fun books ever written, but it's not good just for that. It's a celebration of boyhood and a commentary on what true manhood ought to be like. And for that reason, Christians should read it and glean from it.
That's good.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Eternal Library. We always appreciate you guys listening and giving us your feedback, and we're so blessed that people have enjoyed it thus far. So join us next time as we venture into the wilds of the Yukon to explore nature, destiny, dogs, and social Darwinism. Join us next time on the Eternal Library. We'll see you then.
Bye.